As it often happens, something that Charlotte Mason intuitively knew to be true is now being proven through scientific studies. One of the tools that Charlotte integrated into her approach is the tool of recording, writing down what you are learning. And now, studies are showing that recording what you are learning through handwriting, not typing, increases your active engagement, your memory retention, comprehension, critical thinking, and creativity. So let's talk about this powerful tool for self-education. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. We bring you new encouragement and Charlotte Mason training for homeschool parents every week. We've been talking about the 6 tools that a Charlotte Mason education uses to equip your student to be a lifelong learner. These are the tools that we all use whenever we want to learn something for ourselves. They're not dependent on hiring a teacher or sitting in a classroom. They are tools for self-education. Now, so far, we've looked at 3 of the tools: observe, read, and tell. If you missed any of those episodes, check the description for links. Our tool today is one that many famous people in the past saw the benefit of and used for themselves. Leonardo da Vinci is renowned for his detailed notebooks. Marie Curie also kept meticulous notebooks on her research. C.S. Lewis kept notebooks with his reflections and writing ideas. Beethoven jotted down snippets of music lines as they occurred to him, and then later would integrate those into his compositions. Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein jotted down their ideas and questions and findings in notebooks as well. Recording what you are learning is a powerful tool in the process of self-education. Now, recording your own findings is different from filling out a pre-printed worksheet. On a worksheet, the teacher has already recorded what he or she thinks is important to know, and then often has manipulated those words a little bit. She might remove some of the key words and put blanks to fill in. Or she might reword a statement into a question that has one answer taken directly from the text. She might hide the key words in a grid of other letters and challenge the student to find those words in the puzzle. There are many ways to manipulate the information on a worksheet, but the fact remains that someone else has already determined what is important and placed it on the paper in some form ahead of time. Recording your findings, on the other hand, requires the student to do the mental work of engaging with the material, seeing what stands out to him, and then determining what to record and how best to represent it. It puts the responsibility of learning squarely on the student's shoulders, which is what Charlotte Mason emphasized. She wrote, "The children, not the teachers, are the responsible persons. They do the work by self-effort." A Philosophy of Education, page 6. Worksheets and workbooks often reduce the learning process to just scanning the text to find the words that should fill in the blanks. The student doesn't have to put forth the mental effort to make that knowledge his own. He simply has to be a good scanner. Activity pages keep the student busy, but they provide no food for thought. The focus there is on exercising the mind rather than feeding the mind. And that's why in a Charlotte Mason approach, we don't use pre-printed worksheets or activity pages. Rather, we give our students blank notebooks in which to record their findings. A blank page gives your student the opportunity to express what he got out of the ideas that were presented, what relations he formed with them, and he can record it in his own words and in his own way. Recording what you are learning is a powerful tool for self-education in several ways. First, it helps you slow down to observe even more. I remember Karen Andriola saying that the best pace to read a poem is the pace at which you can copy it. And it's true. Handwriting that poem slows you down and forces you to look at each word and the part that it plays in the whole. The same is true for writing down a quotation from literature, or jotting down a grammar guideline, or encapsulating your own thoughts about what you just read. The act of writing slows you down, giving you an opportunity to observe even more. And that's also when you discover where the holes are in your knowledge. You may think that you know what you just observed, but can you put it into your own words on a sheet of paper? We talked last time about the tool of telling about what you read or observed. Telling is a good way to practice putting something into your own words. Recording those words on paper takes it to a higher level. When you are recording your findings in writing, you have to wrestle with an idea until you can satisfactorily put it in your own words, and then hold it in your mind long enough for your fingers to capture those words one at a time. Recording your findings takes that telling to a new level. Another advantage of writing down what you are learning is that it can help you remember what you read or observed. Oh, I can't tell you the number of times that I read a chapter of a book and some great idea really resonated with me, and the thought came, you really should write that down. But just as quickly I thought, oh no, this is such a powerful idea, I will definitely remember this. Now I can't tell you what those ideas were, which is sad. On the other hand, I have journals in which I record quotations and ideas from books that stand out to me as I read. And those collections are like revisiting old friends. I enjoy reading through them and remembering, feasting again on the ideas that they contribute to my growth as a person. And you know, each time I do that, I'm struck by the fact that I'm bringing other ideas with me. As I keep learning and growing, I make more ideas my own. And then when I'm reminded of something that struck me a few months ago in my journals, suddenly I see how what I wrote there relates to one of the new ideas. That's education. Charlotte called it the science of relations. As your student continues to grow, he comes back to his record as a little different person than when he wrote it down. He brings with him the new ideas that he has gained, ideas that have contributed to his personal growth. So now he might see that original record in a new light, the light that comes from more experiences and a deeper understanding. Recording what you are learning contributes greatly to discovering how things relate to each other, the science of relations. Let me highlight 4 specialized ongoing notebooks that are used in a Charlotte Mason education. Now remember, these notebooks are blank to begin with. They become what the student makes of them over the years. One notebook is used for creating a timeline. Every 2-page spread covers 100 years of history, a century. So this notebook is called a book of centuries. As your student reads about different people and events in history, whether poets or statesmen, scientists, musicians, artists, authors, he can enter them all on the appropriate pages in the Book of Centuries. Now, this book especially contributes to that science of relations because every time your student flips it open to make a new entry, he sees the other people and events that he has already entered in that century. And that's when he starts to make those important mental connections. Oh, Tchaikovsky lived at the same time as Abraham Lincoln. He forms those relations for himself, and that's when they stick. I like to recommend that you start with a family book of centuries. This works well when you have young students who are still learning how to read and write. With a family book of centuries, you can do the handwriting, and you can make your entries all together so your students see how this notebook works. Then, When a student feels comfortable reading and his handwriting is well established, he can start his own book of centuries, often around 5th grade or so. Our curriculum includes Book of Centuries entries, which your student can use if he wants to, but encourage him to put the entries in his own words and record what he thinks is important to remember about each historical person or event. We have a free download of a basic Book of Centuries that works well for a family to do together. We also have a more elaborate one called My Book of Centuries, designed for older students, which you can purchase. Check the description for links. Another special notebook in a Charlotte Mason education is a book of mottos. You might also hear it referred to as a commonplace book or journal. This one is used to record quotations that stand out to your student as he reads. It might include excerpts from his assigned school books, or from literature, or from leisure reads, from Shakespeare or Plutarch, for example. This is a great place to collect inspiring sayings, or to record examples of great writing. Your student can also add his own thoughts about the quotations that he's transcribing there. This notebook is usually started after your student is comfortable reading on about a 4th grade level and is fluent in handwriting. The math notebook looks a little bit different from the others. Rather than completely blank pages, it contains blank gridded pages, like graph paper. Now, I think this is a brilliant idea. Using gridded pages for math helps your student keep the numerals neat and legible because he writes only one number per grid square. Since the squares in the grid are aligned, the place value of the numbers can easily be seen and checked. Whether he's doing beginning addition, long division, or algebra, this type of notebook encourages your student to form the habits of accuracy and precision. And as he explores and discovers how math works during his lesson times, he can record conversion charts and math rules in his own words in the back of the notebook for handy reference. You can adjust the size of the grid to what will work best with your student's handwriting across the years. Start with a larger grid and gradually work your way down to smaller sizes as he's ready for them. The 4th ongoing notebook that I want to mention is the Nature Notebook. This is a notebook that's a place for your student to record his observations in nature. As he observes nature friends outdoors, he can record what he sees and hears and smells and touches. Many students enjoy sketching or painting their observations because those actions slow you down and encourage you to look more closely and carefully. Observations can also be recorded in words. And if your student is not yet comfortable reading or writing, encourage him to tell you what he wants to record, and you can write it for him in his notebook. With nature study on the schedule 1 day each week, your student receives regular opportunities to encounter nature firsthand. As he discovers more about nature friends around him, he'll want to learn more from his science lessons. And as he learns about things in his science lessons, he'll want to go outside and discover more for himself. And his nature notebook will be his ready companion, a keepsake of his growing relationship with God's creation. We've done episodes on most of these notebooks, so check the description for links if you want to learn more. I'll also leave links to the math notebooks, Book of Centuries, and nature notebooks that we have available at Simply Charlotte Mason. You can let your student pick out a journal at his favorite bookstore for his book of mottos. Do you have one of these notebooks in mind that you would like to get started with? Or perhaps you've already used one of them and it has become a favorite in your homeschool. Leave a comment. Let me know which of these 4 notebooks that I've mentioned especially resonates with you. Now let me give you 3 tips for using these notebooks. Tip number 1, create your own notebooks too. The best way to encourage your student to record his findings is for you to model it. By creating your own Book of Centuries, Nature Notebook, and Book of Mottos or Commonplace Book, you will demonstrate the value of this tool for your own self-education. I tell you, when I started homeschooling, I didn't know history. I had been taught social studies, not history. But as we followed the Charlotte Mason method of learning history through living books, I became fascinated with the subject, and I started to keep my own Book of Centuries. That's when it all started to make sense. The composers, the artists, the poets, the scientists, the famous people I had heard of but hadn't really formed a personal relation with, it all clicked when I started to keep my own Book of Centuries. And the same goes for the Nature Notebook and the Book of Mottos. You will be surprised at how much you can learn by keeping these notebooks for yourself. And when you make it a priority to record what you're learning right along with your student, he will see a powerful demonstration of this lifelong learning tool. So model the value of recording your own findings. Tip number 2. Make your students' notebooks his own possession. If your school experience was anything like mine, you may be thinking that, oh, these notebooks are just one more thing I've got to correct. After all, most of us grew up with the teacher checking anything we put into writing and making sure that we had written the correct answers. But in a Charlotte Mason approach, the Book of Centuries, the Book of Mottos, and the Nature Notebook are the student's own possessions. It is not the teacher's job to critique or correct them like a workbook. Now, the math notebook, yes, you will be checking your student's work there. But even with that notebook, the student is encouraged to record math rules in his own words as he discovers them through the lessons. So there is an opportunity for his own expressions. But especially with the other 3 notebooks we've discussed, your job is simply to make sure that your student makes the entry and makes it with care, that he's engaged and giving his best effort to record what he is learning in his own words and in his own way. The sketching or painting in the Nature Notebooks, not the time for art lessons. The Book of Centuries and Book of Mottos, not the time for handwriting lessons. Rather, assign the student to make the entry. Now, you can explain what you expect in that entry. For example, you could assign your student to transcribe at least 2 lines into your Book of Mottos, and then let him know that you expect that entry to reflect something that stood out to him from the book that he's reading, something meaningful to him. But don't tell him what to record. Then simply check that he recorded at least 2 lines, and that those 2 lines are not the same words over and over just to take up space, and that the lines were transcribed with care. What he chose to record is his own possession. And the same is true for the Nature Notebook. You can direct your student's focus to one particular nature friend that you are studying that day, and you can help him get into the good habit of recording the date and location on the page, along with his entry. But the entry itself is his own possession, as long as he's engaged and putting forth effort. You see, the purpose is to give him opportunities to practice using the tool of recording for his own benefit, for self-education. You can give him your expectations for his effort, but be careful not to dictate the exact content that he should record. The more you tell him what you think he should record, the more he will depend on you to do that thinking for him. So make your expectations clear, but don't prescribe or criticize what is put into the notebooks. They are your student's own possession. Tip number 3, keep full notebooks. One of the big differences between Charlotte Mason notebooks and usual workbooks is that these notebooks are intended to be ongoing keepsakes. They're each a record of what your student has formed relations with as he continues to learn and grow over time. He can use the same Book of Centuries until he graduates. And I know some students who've taken theirs to college, too. So hang on to your students' Book of Centuries and math notebooks and Book of Mottos and nature notebooks. Many of them will last longer than just 1 year. And as your student flips them open to add new entries, he will also be able to look at what he has already recorded. That situation is ripe for making new mental connections and forming more relations. By valuing these notebooks and regarding them as important practices in your home school, you will reinforce the idea that recording is an ongoing tool that your student and you can use to self-educate over your entire lives. Thanks for joining me. Next time, we will discuss the role that memorizing plays in the tools for self-education. Be sure to check the description for links to learn more about the notebooks your student will use to record. I'll see you next time.